The news broke like a thunderclap, sudden, electrifying, and impossible to ignore. Across the country, televisions flickered with urgent bulletins, and phones buzzed with notifications. The Supreme Court had just handed down a decision that would ripple through every community, every household, and every conversation about safety and freedom. The headline was stark: SCOTUS strikes down concealed carry restrictions. In a single moment, decades of debate over the Second Amendment and public safety were thrust into the national spotlight, reigniting old arguments and sparking new ones. In Times Square, the heart of New York City, massive screens flashed the faces of the Supreme Court justices responsible for the ruling. The city's usual buzz was replaced by a strange mix of shock, celebration, and unease. Some people cheered, others stood in stunned silence, and many simply tried to process what this meant for their daily lives. On one side of the plaza, a man in a suit grinned as he texted fellow gun rights advocates. For him, this was vindication at last, a long-awaited restoration of what he saw as a fundamental right. He felt a surge of pride, believing that the Constitution had spoken clearly in favor of individual liberty. But just a few steps away, a mother clutched her child tightly, her phone buzzing with alarmed messages from friends and family. For her, the ruling meant more guns in public spaces, more uncertainty, and a heightened sense of fear. She wondered how she would explain this new reality to her children, and what it would mean for their safety. The scene captured the nation's split. In rural towns, gun shops erupted in celebration. Owners and customers alike saw the decision as a victory for personal freedom and self-defense, a long-overdue correction to what they viewed as government overreach. Meanwhile, in cities across America, officials scrambled to respond. Emergency meetings were called, press conferences hastily arranged, and new policies debated. Mayors and police chiefs faced tough questions about how to keep their communities safe in the wake of the ruling. This wasn't just a legal decision, it was a seismic shift, touching every corner of the country. From the smallest rural hamlet to the largest urban center, Americans everywhere were forced to reconsider what safety, rights, and responsibility meant in this new era. The ruling forced Americans to confront their deepest divisions over guns. Heated debates broke out in coffee shops, on social media, and at kitchen tables. Neighbors who once agreed on everything now found themselves on opposite sides of a widening chasm. It drew a new, sharper line in the sand, one that separated not just political parties, but friends, families, and entire communities. The question of who should carry a gun, and where, became more urgent than ever. The debate over the role of guns in society had never felt more urgent. Town hall meetings grew more passionate, rallies swelled in size, and the nation braced itself for the next chapter in a story that was far from over. The ruling had shaken the nation to its core, and its aftershocks would be felt for years to come. In a landmark moment, the Supreme Court issued a 6-3 decision that would reshape the national conversation on gun rights. The court declared that the Second Amendment not only protects the right to keep a handgun at home for self-defense, but also extends that protection to carrying a handgun for self-defense outside the home. This was a major clarification of constitutional rights, and it sent shockwaves through the legal and political landscape. Before this ruling, states like New York and California operated under strict may-issue permit systems. Under these laws, local authorities had broad discretion to deny concealed carry permits, often based on subjective judgments about an applicant's good cause or proper reason. Many law-abiding citizens found themselves frustrated, denied permits even when they met all the basic requirements, simply because officials decided their need wasn't compelling enough. The Supreme Court's decision dismantled these discretionary systems. Now, states must adopt shall-issue frameworks, meaning permits must be granted to anyone who meets clear, objective criteria, such as being of legal age, passing a background check, and completing basic safety training. The process is no longer subject to the whims of local officials, but instead follows transparent, standardized rules. Importantly, the ruling did not eliminate all forms of gun regulation. States can still require permits, training, and background checks. However, the era of arbitrary discretionary denials is over. The decision set a new constitutional standard, ensuring that the right to bear arms cannot be limited by vague or subjective government policies. For many gun owners, what had long been a theoretical right, protected in principle but often denied in practice, became a tangible reality overnight. People who had struggled for years to obtain permits suddenly found the process open to them, and many celebrated this newfound access to their constitutional rights. The path to a permit, once a confusing and often discouraging bureaucratic maze, was now made clear and straightforward. Applicants could finally navigate the process with confidence, knowing that if they met the requirements, their right to carry would be recognized. The impact of this decision rivaled that of the famous District of Columbia versus Heller case, which first recognized an individual's right to own firearms for self-defense at home. Now, the Supreme Court had extended that right beyond the home, marking a significant expansion of gun rights across the country. This ruling fundamentally shifted the balance between state power and individual rights. It limited the ability of state and local governments to restrict gun ownership through subjective permitting, and reinforced the idea that constitutional rights must be protected equally in every state. The legal landscape for gun ownership in America was forever changed. The decision sparked debate, celebrations, and new questions about the future of gun regulation, but one thing was clear: the right to carry a handgun for self-defense outside the home was now firmly protected by the highest court in the land. State and local reactions split along familiar lines. In Texas and Florida, officials celebrated, gun rights groups ramped up training, and the mood was triumphant. In New York and California, leaders vowed to fight back, calling special sessions to restrict guns in as many public places as possible. Police chiefs worried about more guns on the streets, scrambling to retrain officers for new rules. For ordinary people, the ruling brought both relief and anxiety. Some, like Sarah in Los Angeles, finally felt empowered to protect themselves. Others, like Mark in Chicago, feared more guns would mean more danger in daily life. The legal debate had become intensely personal. The court introduced a new test gun laws must align with the nation's historical tradition. Gone are balancing tests weighing public safety against rights. Now, only historical precedent matters. Governments must prove a regulation existed in the 18th or 19th century, or risk it being struck down. Gun rights advocates cheered this as a return to original constitutional meaning. Critics called it unworkable, arguing modern firearms and society are nothing like the past. Judges must now become historians, searching for analogs in centuries-old laws. The result: a chaotic, unpredictable legal landscape. The future of gun regulation is now tied to the past. The ruling toppled may-issue laws in populous states, forcing a shift to shall-issue systems. Now, permits must be granted to anyone meeting clear criteria. No more subjective denials. County offices were flooded with applications, while lawmakers raced to designate sensitive places where guns remain banned. New York's list included subways, parks, and even Times Square, making public carry nearly impossible. Gun rights groups sued, arguing these bans defied the Supreme Court's intent. Courts must now decide how broad sensitive places can be. The transition is messy, with both sides fighting to shape the new reality. The battle over public carry is far from over. The ruling didn't create national uniformity, it deepened the patchwork of state gun laws. A permit in one state might be a felony in another, creating confusion for travelers. States now fall into three categories: permitless carry, shall issue, and restrictive shall issue with many sensitive places. This chaos has fueled calls for national concealed carry reciprocity, treating permits like driver's licenses. Supporters say it's common sense, opponents warn it would undermine states with stricter standards. The debate pits individual rights against local control. The question of reciprocity remains fiercely contested. For now, gun owners must navigate a legal minefield. The ruling intensified America's culture war over guns. For gun rights supporters, it was long-awaited validation, a check on government overreach, and a step toward greater freedom. They saw it as proof that restrictive laws only disarm the law-abiding, not criminals. Gun control advocates meanwhile saw disaster: more guns in public, more violence, more fear. They felt the court prioritized history over modern safety, deepening their sense of powerlessness. The decision didn't just change laws, it widened the chasm between two visions of America. One sees armed individuals as liberty's guarantors, the other, collective safety as society's foundation. The debate over guns is now more polarized than ever. The Supreme Court's decision unleashed a wave of legal chaos. Judges must now interpret gun laws through a historical lens, leading to conflicting rulings nationwide. The biggest fight defining sensitive places. States have expanded the list. Gun rights groups are suing. Other laws, assault weapon bans, magazine limits, red flag laws, are all under new scrutiny. The outcome is uncertain, with different courts reaching different conclusions. Many cases will return to the Supreme Court for clarity. Until then, lawmakers and citizens navigate a fog of legal uncertainty. The courts remain the central battleground in America's gun debate. The recent ruling forces America to confront a core, age-old question: how do we truly balance the right to bear arms with the need for public safety? This is not just a legal issue, but a deeply personal and cultural one, touching the lives of millions across the country. The crossroads we face is not only about laws, but about values, fears, and hopes for the future. For many Americans, the decision is a powerful affirmation of self-reliance and liberty. They see an armed citizenry as the ultimate safeguard against threats, both foreign and domestic. To them, the right to bear arms is woven into the fabric of American identity, a symbol of independence and personal responsibility. It's about protecting loved ones, standing up for oneself, and ensuring that freedom is never taken for granted. Yet, for others, this ruling feels like a threat to the peace and security of their communities. They argue that rights must be balanced with the collective need for safety, and that unchecked access to firearms can lead to tragedy. These voices call for thoughtful regulations, believing that true freedom includes the right to feel safe in schools, neighborhoods, and public spaces. The debate is now more urgent than ever, echoing through newsrooms, social media, and family dinner tables. Every day, new headlines and stories add fuel to the fire, making the conversation impossible to ignore. The nation stands at a crossroads. Do we move toward fewer restrictions and greater individual empowerment, or do we choose stricter regulations in the name of collective safety? The path forward is uncertain, and the stakes are high for everyone. The answer won't come from a single court decision or a single law. It will require ongoing effort, reflection, and compromise from all sides. Ultimately, the solution will be forged in ongoing, sometimes difficult conversations about America's future. Conversations that demand empathy, understanding, and a willingness to listen. The balance between rights and safety remains the great unanswered question of our time, a challenge that will define the nation for generations to come.